Alright, so getting out stuck bolts and screws and nuts is something that we all struggle with as owners of vintage motorcycles. It used to be the bane of my existence. I just couldn't figure out how to get out those really stuck ones, and it used to really vex me until I figured out some of these simple tips and tricks, and so I'm going to share them with you guys today. The first step is selecting the right tool for the right job. Um, I only really use Craftsman tools. I like that they're good, good quality tools. I can take any broken parts or any wore out parts into any Sears and they'll just give me a replacement. They've got lifetime warranties on them. This is just sort of a no-name set that I've filled with Craftsman tools. I got my 1/4 inch and 3/8. And so it's good. It's important to start with really quality tools. And for example, here's my 10mm, which I rely on heavily, 1/4 inch drive. Another important thing is that your tools are not wore down. You can see the edges here are still pretty sharp, still pretty keen. If you're starting out with wore out sockets, then you're likely to strip the bolt, and you're likely to wear it down anyway, to where a good socket won't be able to extract this. So you always want to have a really good socket set. Continuing on with the theme of the right tool for the right job, this is my screwdriver collection. You can see that there's many different types of screwdrivers, many different sizes. Some of them I use for prying, some of them I would not use for prying. I have nice long ones like this for getting into carburetor boots and stuff like that. And so you want to select the right screwdriver for extracting that screw. You don't want to use one that's too big or too small. Additionally, something that a lot of people don't realize is that the Phillips head screws that we're used to over here in the United States are a little bit different than the ones that they use in Japan. In Japan they use what's called Japanese Industrial Standard screws, or JIS. They seat a little bit better. They're actually a better design for the Phillips head. But our tools, which are, I'll show you the difference here. I can get that up. This is, let me try and get this to focus. This is one of our Phillips screwdrivers, and it's rather pointy. This one is a Japanese Industrial Standard screwdriver, and it's rather blunt. That means that if we try and use this pointy one in a Japanese Industrial Standard screw, it'll obviously fit in, but it doesn't fit in as well, and it doesn't sit flush like this one does. And so this is a lot more likely to strip out, especially with our old crusty bolts that, I don't know, are 20 or 30 years old. So, go on eBay or whatever, or look around on Amazon for some Japanese industrial screwdrivers. To make the world of difference. It can save you 10 times over in headache from stripping out those screws. Alright, a couple more handy tools. This here is a breaker bar. It's just a 1/2 inch drive here on this rotating knuckle, and it's maybe 18 inches long or something like this. Most bolts, even great big ones, will come out with something like this. These are handy because it's real simple. This is a real simple little knuckle here, and so you're not going to hurt it if you put a lot of force on it. And also the nice thick bar is not going to bend, and you get a whole bunch of leverage it being so long. If you can't get it with your breaker bar, you can use a cheater bar. That is actually an old exhaust pipe from a Dodge Dakota, and for those absolutely stubborn bolts that just won't come out, I will use that. I just slip that over the breaker bar and apply some real gentle force, because the longer your bar is, the longer your the lever is that you're holding, the less force you personally have to apply. What was it? Who said this? Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I will move the world. 20 points to whoever knows who said that. But it's absolutely true. If you just elongate the lever that you're working on, you don't have to kick it or scream at it or anything. You can just apply some real gentle force. That's what I like to do. I don't really like to kick ratchets or my breaker bar or anything. I just apply real gentle, like progressively strengthening force, as if you're squeezing on a brake handle. You know, you never want to just like jam on your brakes because you could lock up your wheels. But if you just sort of squeeze that brake handle, that's how you brake. Just the same as if you just ease the ratchet over. That way you're going to take care of your tools. You're not going to strip your bolts. You're not going to strip your nut heads. And I just find that that's the way to do it. So that's how you use those. Sometimes you've got a bike where the bolt is already stripped. We all know what previous owners can do to your bikes. They might strip a bolt and then just leave it in there, and so you got to get it out. Well, there's a couple of techniques you can use to get it out. Something that's one of my first things, you know, if I can't get a socket to stay on, is I'll just grab it with a set of vice grips. Got my vice grips here. Just sort of grab it and then twist it as if it's a ratchet, just like that. That's a technique I use a lot on the screws that hold on the float bowls of really nasty carbs. Is I'll get a good pair of vice grips here, one with nice sharp edges, and just sort of really dainty get them in there and just squeeze them. And you can rotate them around like that. Another product that I like to use is something called PB Blaster. Usually it comes in spray cans like WD-40 does. Well, WD-40 comes in these big cans too, but usually it comes in spray cans. I buy it by the gallon like this, and they give you a free squirty thing, just because I use so much of it, and it's really cheap like this, and it's better for the environment, so can't beat that. You just spray this stuff on here like this, give it a nice liberal dose, and usually right like that is enough to lubricate it and bust it loose. I don't know how it works. It's got some kind of catalyst that gets in there or whatever, by osmosis or isotopic whatever have yous. I just know that it works really well. It gets down into the rust and works its way in there and frees bolts. Sometimes you can let it sit. I mean, if a bolt's still not coming, you should let it sit. This stuff is really great also for spraying into spark plug holes. If you have a stuck engine, just spray this stuff in there and just sort of let it soak. So this is really good stuff. Yet another thing you can do is to use heat. This is just your average propane torch. And what you can do is you can heat up the area around the bolt. Don't heat up the bolt itself. Try and keep that as cool as possible. But heat up the area around the bolt like this. And the theory is that everything around it will expand while the bolt stays the same size. And that will help break apart some of that rust, and it will give it a little bit more space to move around in there. Maybe you can bust it free. Something like this, I would first off, I would spray it down with PB Blaster and get PB Blaster down in the cracks and whatnot, and then I would heat up maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Heat it up around it, and I like to think that like the PB Blaster also expands and it busts it loose and everything, and the PB Blaster creates some kind of a, I don't know, buffer between the two metal surfaces. I don't know if expanding PB Blaster, turning it into a gas really does anything at all, but that's what I like to think. So this is how I usually go about these really, really nasty bolts. A Dremel style rotary tool can be a very handy thing in these types of situations. This one's actually by Black & Decker. It's been a very good tool for me. I like it a lot. You can use it in a number of different ways. For example, let's say this bolt here, you just can't get out or whatever, you know, it's totally stuck. You can use this to cut off the bolt. And this thing will cut off the bolt in about 15 seconds or so, probably less than that. And then hopefully bang it out and it'll fall out the other side, and then you can use another bolt. Sometimes you gotta just, you know, make the choice, am I gonna sacrifice the bolt, you know, to replace another one, or whatever you gotta do. Another thing that a Dremel is good for is, let's say you've got a screw, like one of those there, and let's say, for instance, somebody came in, used the wrong screwdriver, and totally jammed out these threads here. You know, you can't get a Phillips to stay. Well, what you can do is you can use your Dremel and you can cut a slot like that in it, or you could even cut an X for a Phillips, and here you can use the straight. Well, it's definitely stuck, but that's one way that you can restore the head here on one of these bolts to get it out. Another handy tool is a set of easy outs. With these easy outs, it's really important to buy quality ones rather than cheapo ones, and I'll tell you why. You can see that my 5 easy out set only has 4 in them. That's because my thinnest one I recently used to extract a bolt which was totally stuck. It was a screw, much like this one. I couldn't get, a slot into it. I couldn't get anything out of it, so I'm like, alright, I'm going to drill it out. You drill a hole into it, with your diamond plated drill bits or whatever. Drill a hole, with the best bit that you can. Be sure not to deviate any, because you don't want to get into the threads, but you just want to drill a hole absolutely in the center all the way in. Maybe about, I don't know, well, it depends on the thickness of the bolt, but I usually try and go in like a 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch if it's a big one. Just sort of get in there good. Then you take this thing, and it's got these reverse screws on it, right? And so you stick it in, you wrap it with a hammer a couple times, and then you start rotating it. You can put a set of vice grips on here. They make little handles for them. You start rotating it real slowly, and it's supposed to, as it digs in, it's supposed to put that left turning force on your bolt. So hopefully as it digs in more, it's trying to screw it out. However, if you buy cheap ones like I did, what will happen is you will actually break off this tip. And this metal here is harder than the bolt, and so it's much harder to drill this out. I ended up scrapping the whole part. I just had to replace the whole part, and it was just a dummy mistake on my part for trying to go cheapo. However, that's another option that you may have. You can just go up the line, as I like to call it. Like, say we can't get this little bracket off here, right? I might elect to take the whole bracket off, this whole piece, and either replace it, or I can stick it in my vice grip, or my bench vise maybe, and work on it a little bit more. Just don't be so focused on just this one bolt that, oh, I can't get it out, when maybe there's this piece that you can remove. Here's a couple other tricks. I don't like to hit my ratchets with a hammer. I don't like to kick them or jolt them. I don't hit my wrenches with a hammer either, but I will take a hammer and I will knock the shit out of a bolt. Just like that. Theory behind that is that it will bust all the rust loose. It'll just sort of jumble up all those atoms, and hopefully they will realign themselves in a way that's not so stuck. If I see a bolt that looks like it's going to be stuck, I'll just take a hammer to it a couple times anyway, just to just to do it, and just to get it out, through preventative measures. Works really well. Now these are some very handy little things. I don't even remember what they're called, but they're little reverse threaded sockets that are sort of universal because they get smaller as they go deeper. So you can stick them on your socket or on your ratchet just like that, and you can tack any stripped down bolt with one of these. Actually, I'll probably want to use a smaller one, but I'll go ahead and stick that on, right? And then put that there, and as I rotate it, it just digs down deeper and deeper, and it will attach itself to pretty much anything. It's kind of a bitch getting it back off again. You definitely have to take the bolt out, and then sometimes I have to put in my vice grip to get it off again. But this thing will grab wore down, stripped, rusted, all kinds of nasty bolts that my sockets can't grip. So, really good tool. So that's about it. Y'all have a good one.